Welcome to Wellness Made Easy with Wendy and Kirsten.
Hi, I'm Wendy. After I graduated with my master's in wellness management, I started my own company, T2 Coaching, Health, Fitness, and Sport.
And I'm Kirsten, an athlete, vegan, life coach, and girl mom, running a business focused on helping others create a life they love.
We are here to explore all things wellness to help you become the person you've always wanted to be.
So if that's why you're here, open your ears and your mind as we tackle the world of wellness together.
Hi, friends.
Hey, everyone. Hi, Kirsten.
Hi, Wendy. How's your week going?
Good. How about yours?
It's been a lot of ups and downs this week. It's a roller coaster. That's life with a 6-year-old.
Yeah. Wow. 6 years old.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of epic because I just remember my 6-year-old self.
Right.
Pretty vibrantly. I don't know why. Maybe it's just because I look at pictures and I remember when I was 6 years old. I was a very active kid.
Yeah. I remember my youth a lot too. And I think that really helps me with being a mom is thinking like, oh, well, so for example, people always, and we're actually going to talk a little bit about screen time today, but people always are like, oh, keep your kids away from the screens, no screen time, limit their screen time. When I was a kid, I swear we watched TV like 4 hours a day.
Right.
I mean, we were out playing and doing a lot of other things, but like Saturday mornings, we would wake up, turn on the TV until cartoons were over. And then in the evenings, we'd watch like Facts of Life and like whatever others. I don't even remember all the shows, but even in like
Love Boat, I remember the Love Boat and Fantasy Island because that came on after the Love Boat.
Right.
And I never could stay up for Fantasy Island, but the Love Boat was like a family TV time. I remember the Love Boat.
Right.
And I also remember Atari and playing Pac-Man.
Right.
Like no other.
Right.
And at the same time, I mean, it didn't prevent me from being the most active kid either. I wasn't a sedentary kid playing Atari, Pac-Man, and watching cartoons. It was just so different back then.
Yeah, it's just weird that like, you know, people are like, oh, limit screen time. I'm like, I used to watch like 4 hours of TV a day and I feel like I turned out okay. Like jury's still out, but same thing with like eating because I became vegetarian when I was 8.
Uh-huh.
And my family wasn't vegetarian. And so when I would go, and my mom and dad did an amazing job of like, if they were making hamburger helper, they took out a scoop before they put the hamburger in. So I just ate that. But like when I was at friend's house after school making my own meals, I literally ate peanut butter and jelly sandwich every day of my life.
Uh-huh.
Like that was like 2 meals as PB&J and I turned out okay. So I think we overthink like we don't want to mess up our kids and we want them to, you know, not have to deal with all the hardships of life. And a lot of it's just like, let it go.
Well, and let me also say, I think, I don't know who's telling you this, but first of all, do they even know how much screen time she has to tell you to how to parent your kid about screen time? And in today's world, that's just part of growing up as a kid is having the screen time.
Right.
And I think if you don't have it as a kid, like if a kid's growing up at today's world and they don't ever learn about the internet, they're behind.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Nobody's like,
today's world is different.
Yeah. Nobody has once said, I mean, we don't even own a TV. So no one's ever said any, I'm just saying like in general, when people are like, oh, you can't feed your kids this or screen time this or like all these things. When we think back about like when we were kids and all the things we did and we all turned out okay, I'm like, okay, just relax. Because I think as parents, a lot of parents, we judge ourselves.
Right.
Like when I'm frustrated with Cora and I'm like, she's fighting me on something or because she's a very independent, wonderfully strong-willed young lady, which is exactly what I want her to be. Mm-hmm. But not when we're in the middle of we're headbutting, like trying to get her ready for school or something like that.
Right.
I'm like, just get ready for school. And so when I get overwhelmed and frustrated, I need to chill. And my idea of chill is like play a game on my phone or do something like that. So then I'm like, Cora, do you just want to watch your phone for a few minutes and relax? And she says, yes. And it diffuses the situation. But then I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm using like, instead of dealing with the issue, I'm like, watch your phone. So then I judge myself. I don't feel like other people are judging me.
Right. I get it.
So what is your wellness win for the week, Wendy?
Well, it's our topic of today is taking some time out of taking screen time out of my life.
Right. I know. That's why it's funny that just like popped up when I thought of it.
Yeah. Less screen time and less social media, because I went on a trip with my husband. And so, and we'll talk about the trip, but my wellness win is we went on this trip, we were together, we were present, we were focused, we were intentional. And we went to this place. Should I just talk about my trip?
Yeah.
We went to this place in such as Georgia, and we had heard about it from Don's son, who went there with his ex-girlfriend a couple years ago. And I thought it was no internet. Like, I didn't think we'd even have an opportunity to get on the internet. And so I let the athletes I coach know that if I didn't respond to Training Peaks, this is why, and I'd be back Wednesday. I was only gone for 2.5, 3 days. And it made me had to really get up to date, make sure every athlete was okay for the week in case I couldn't communicate with them for 3 weeks, because I'm very communicative with the athletes I coach. And so we went to this cabin. It's called Postcard Cabins, and it's like a tiny house on wheels. It's got a bed, it's got a little kitchen, and it's got a bathroom. And their whole philosophy is get outdoors. And when you walk in, they have a little box that you put your phones in, if that's what you want to do, and lock up your phones for your entire stay. So I just didn't think we'd have the opportunity to do internet at all. So I was expecting to be internet free for 3 days. And so, I've been reading a lot more. So it gave me the opportunity to finish 150 pages of my book that I wanted to finish. Pride and Prejudice was a tough book to read. And, but with no distractions, I got really into it the last third of the book, because I had nothing else. That was the plan. I had nothing else to do. And it was a great trip because it wasn't any type of training trip. I did run 3 to 4 miles every morning, and we did hike in the afternoons, but that wasn't the goal. It was really just to more or less spend time together and relax and go see, we went to Blue Ridge for one day, and we did take our phones, because for heaven's sake, how did we get around without GPS back in the day?
Right.
But we did use our phones for GPS. And I did get online every morning, because I had already prepared that I wanted to post on Instagram, because I post on Instagram, usually a motivational thing, pretty much every day. So I did do maybe 30 minutes of screen time every day, if that. And I didn't come home overwhelmed and stressed. Oh my God, I'm so far behind in anything, because I was prepared to have a trip. It's not something I usually do. Usually my trips are go train, go do a big training volume for 2 days, or go to a race, and that's my trip. So to actually go on vacation and unplug was very rewarding, and definitely a huge wellness win.
That is awesome. Yeah. And that's actually what we're going to talk about today. So we'll get into that. I'm struggling with my wellness win. I was trying to think, like, throughout the week, I always think like about what's my wellness win? What's my wellness win? And this week I just got into some sort of poorer thinking, in that when I would come up with something for my wellness win, I would give it an excuse why it isn't a wellness win, which is not usually me, because I'm pretty much an eternal optimist. And I'm always like the most hopeful person. And I always see the the best of everything. And for some reason this week, every time I'd be like, oh, this is a wellness win, I'm like, and I kept like butting myself, like, but that really isn't a wellness win because you should have been doing that anyway. Or so it kind of made me just be aware of what I was telling myself and why am I like not making excuses, but like lessening an accomplishment because I think that either I should already be doing that. Or so like, for example, I was really excited because the last few months I've been struggling with my finances, just getting them organized. And so when I paid my rent for February, I didn't have to pull money from like 8 accounts. Like I already had it in my rent account. And it was so easy. Instead of taking 10 minutes to pay my rent, it took me 30 seconds. I pushed a button and all the money was there. And I'm like, oh my God, what a wellness win. Well, part of the reason it was so easy is because I actually took money at the end of January out of my IRA to pay off some credit cards, some credit card debt. And so then I was like, well, of course it was easier to pay it. You took that money out of your IRA instead of just being like, good job. Because one of my goals in January was to track all of my income and expenses because I have like 10 different jobs and then I'm all over the place. So, and I did that every single day in January and it was great. I did a bunch of data collection and I did some goals for February with it. So it was really great that I did that. So that should just be like, good job, Kirsten, wellness win. And I also my goal was not to, another goal I had for January, another resolution was to not spend a lot of money that I didn't need to spend. So anytime like Amazon, instead of being like, oh, it's in my cart, I'm going to buy it. I'm going to be like, do I really need this right now? So like supplements, I spend a lot of money on supplements. And I was like, okay, instead of just buying it because I'm like, oh, I should be out in a couple weeks. I'm like, no, you don't need it right now because you're not out. Like save it for later. And that was really effective because I spent a lot less money than I normally do. So again, that is a wellness win. But I kept saying, but you shouldn't have spent that anyway, but you still spent more money than you made, but so I think my wellness win is just being aware of all of this. Like we do this in all areas of our life. Like, oh, I ate really well today, but I ate horribly yesterday. Or, I had a good workout yesterday, but my workout today was horrible. So we don't take those little wins. And that's the whole reason we're doing wellness wins. Our whole reason Wendy and I are doing wellness wins is so we can find those little things throughout the week that are a win. It doesn't have to be a big, huge win, just something little that's moving you toward where you want to be in any area of your life, mental, physical, emotional wellness.
Yeah. And I think just the fact that you're aware of that negative self-talk, that's a win. The awareness of it.
Exactly.
And kind of changing your perspective and trying to dig into why were you making those excuses or why were you saying those buts?
Right.
To yourself.
So one of the things I posted in my group, because my group, we talk about it's food, fitness, finance, family, and fun. So to me, those are all the areas of wellness. So we talk about all those areas and I had paid off 2 of my credit cards and I was proud of it the other day. So I was like, oh my gosh, I paid off 2 of my credit cards. And it was funny because I was really proud of myself. And as soon as people started saying, wow, great job, what an accomplishment, I felt like I had to justify, because I'll be honest, both credit cards had around $100 balance. So they were small, right? So, but I mean, I still paid off these credit cards and people were like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. And I felt like I had to say, oh, but they were really small. Like it's not that big of a deal. Instead of like, thank you, that's amazing. I paid off 2 credit cards.
Right.
So it's a reminder for me, it's a reminder for all of you guys is, first of all, if it's a big deal to you, let it be a big deal in life in general. And even if it's something that you're proud of, just be proud of it.
Well, and you just reminded me, again, going back to sport, let's say a 5K, you just ran a 5K, your PR is 22 minutes and you ran 25 minutes and you're feeling down on yourself because you're like, well, that's not my PR, that sucks. Whereas someone else could do 25 minutes and get a 5-minute PR, and that's fantastic for them.
Yeah.
So when they see you thinking a 25-minute sucks, they think, well, I just did a 5-minute PR, but it sucks because Kirsten said 25 minutes sucks.
Right.
So it's really important to not only speak positively about yourself, but every time you think about a performance or something that you've achieved, you don't know where the other person is in their life or in their performance or in their fitness, that you always want to always highlight and keep things positive instead of, oh, well, it sucks for me, but it doesn't suck for you,
Right. Well, and even not even in just sports. I mean, think about, that's how just life. I mean, think about finances. Someone's like, oh my gosh, I got a raise. I now make $20 an hour. Isn't that awesome? Where somebody else might be like, oh my gosh, I can't even live. I only make $20 an hour.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it could go, or relationships even. You're like, oh, my boyfriend bought me this stupid $100 ring for Valentine's Day. And somebody else is like, oh my gosh, I would die for $100 ring.
Right.
That reminds me, today I had a private lesson for swimming. I coach private adults and kids. And about 9 months ago, when she came to me, we were going over her goals. And she was afraid of the deep end. She had never jumped into a pool or a lake or anything. And we have diving blocks at the swim school. And she said, I go, we were kind of talking about her goals. And she saw the diving block and she was like, oh my God, it would be a dream for me to jump off something that high.
Mm-hmm.
And like, if someone is, a lot of people who are comfortable in water, they'll go off like high dives and this and that. Mm-hmm. And so that wouldn't be a big thing. And today she jumped off the block.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It was so amazing. And I was like, oh my gosh, 9 months ago, you were like, this would be a dream. And you just did it. So it's those little things.
Yeah.
And we didn't just jump off that block the first day. Like, we've been jumping off the side. We've been sitting. We started sitting on the side in the deep end and having her slide in and hold onto the wall.
Uh-huh. Yeah, so. I remember doing some lessons like that. And myself, this reminded me of probably about 3 months ago, my kids were doing cannonballs in the outside pool. It was very cold. And I'm like, gosh, I want to do a cannonball. And one day I came in, it was on a weekend, and I went on the diving blocks and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so high. I'm too scared to do a cannonball this high. And so I went inside, I went back in the hot tub, and then I'm like, wait, I can do a cannonball off the side. Like, I don't have to do it off the block.
Right.
So for me to master my cannonball, I'm getting closer. I've just been going off the side. And eventually, by March, by springtime, I set a goal of I want to be comfortable doing a cannonball
right.
off the diving block, which is for the kids, no big deal. But for me, it is, and I think it'd be fun.
So this is what I'm most excited about this whole conversation we just had is after we finish videoing our podcast, AI comes up with a list of names, like titles for our podcast for suggestions. Uh-huh. And I can't wait for it to say Wendy does her first cannonball. That's going to be the name of the podcast. Wendy does her first cannonball off the block.
Even as a kid, I don't think I did cannonballs. I think I did more jackknives.
Right.
It's just getting comfortable, bringing your knees up and tucking, and you just got to lean
back. Getting your butt slapped on the water.
Right. And that's what I'm working on. So, it's the small things in life.
It's baby steps, Wendy.
Yep.
One day you will be cannonballing off a cliff.
Oh, wow.
Oh, maybe. Wow. All right, you guys, we are going to talk about kind of, we kind of already mentioned it, talking about taking a break or taking some time or backing off time from the media or social media, doing kind of a media cleanse. And we wanted to talk about this, because Wendy was going on this trip. And so she was like, oh, I'm taking a little break from the media, from social media. And we were talking about how both of us have a lot of people right now in our lives who are like, I've had friends like delete themselves completely off social media. And then I've had a lot of friends just taking a break from social media because of a lot of things, you know, like the political climate, the just social issues that are going on. A lot of people are either getting really addicted to watching videos, scrolling through nothingness. And then there are a lot of really negative things going on in the media and social media that are not good for our mental and emotional well-being. So we wanted to talk a little bit about this and give some like small little tiny things. So I was thinking of, you know, we're not, especially me, like when Wendy was talking about 3 days and not checking things, I was like getting a little anxiety because I still feel like, because I'm very available to my athletes as well. And I feel like I don't want them to think I'm ignoring them, but doing the prep in advance was really smart. So I'm not saying like, oh, here, let's all do a big media cleanse and turn off our TVs and turn off our phones for a week. We want to give you some little steps to just help diffuse the intensity of what we're being bombarded with.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think going back to our previous podcast we talked about anxiety and stress. We talked about nutritional stuff. And a lot of our perceptions of things could be learned from the internet. So people believe what they want to believe. People are sometimes scrolling or looking for the answer that they want to hear, whether it's right or wrong. You really got to, you know, have your sources of trust that you're going to, again, for stress, anxiety, and like nutritional stuff. You know, make sure if you're looking for your own personalization, in my opinion, why are you asking a Facebook group with 10,000 members if you should train because you have knee pain? Or what do you eat to lose weight? Or, again, you're asking a bunch of strangers in a Facebook group medical questions that you should be asking your doctor first and foremost, or your coach or someone else that you trust, and not take advice from, again, these random strangers. So I just wanted to throw this in there. I wouldn't even call it scrolling. I spend time on mostly Instagram, but sometimes some Facebook. You know, I'm a coach. And so a lot of coaching is creating content, posting it, educating people. I am in a couple of Facebook groups that I scroll, answer questions. I'm addicted to that. Like if I see a question, I can't help myself but type something out and answer it. And like I found myself today, I was going about an hour before a call. I wanted to make sure I posted a question in my personal group, T2 Endurance, about our podcast. I couldn't remember if I posted it earlier. So I went on my Facebook group, and right when I opened up Facebook, this Ironman training group I'm in, that's the first thing I saw. So I start scrolling and answering questions. And I'm like, wait, this isn't why I'm here. I'm here to see if I posted something in my own group. And so I kind of caught myself getting caught up in that. And again, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, because again, I want to get more clients. And I think posting and answering questions could be a way for me to get more triathletes to T2 coaching. And so I'm kind of losing my train of thought. So I'm not the person, like some people just go and scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll and then find hilarious reels. Again, when I'm on Instagram looking at other reels, I'm looking for ideas for me to create my own reel to post on my own story. I'm not necessarily looking to scroll for boredom. I'm like, ooh, that's a good idea. And I'll make a note. I can do that. Oh, I can create that. I can create that. And at the same time, sometimes I get caught up in content that I wait too long, and I'm like, wait, I got to work on athletes training plans.
Right.
Athletes training plans come first before my content, and I have to remind myself. So it could be very distracting. It's very distracting.
Yeah.
And I coach kids, and twice a week, we go up in the weight room after swim team and we do dry land up in the weight room, and they can't leave their phones in their locker. And I see them on their phones, walking around the weight room, running into benches, running into people because they can't put their phone down. And there's one particular swimmer, I know part of her punishments from her mom is she gets her phone taken away. And one time she left her phone on the bench. She went to another machine, and I grabbed her phone and I put it in my pocket. And she was just like almost hysterical because I wouldn't give her phone back. And we had like 10 more minutes. And I'm like, if you were in the pool, you wouldn't be on your phone because you're in water.
Right.
But just to see these reactions of these again, it's a teenage, high school age kids, probably junior high kids, so addicted to the point where they get a little bit over emotional, a little bit out of control because they don't have their phone on them, and they're not going to get the text right away from their friends, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah. Yeah. And I could totally see that because I feel that sometimes too. That's why like unplugging for 3 days, like if I thought of doing that, I'd be like, oh my gosh, well, what if somebody has a question? What if I need to reach out to somebody? So we're such an immediate gratification society now, because I mean, back when we were kids, if you were waiting for a friend to call, you literally I'll call you at 6 and you had to sit by a phone and wait for it to ring. And if 6:30 comes, you're like, okay, I guess I'll sit here and wait longer.
Or you just call them.
Yeah. And
so I'm reading Pride and Prejudice, or I finished it. It's a 200-year-old book. And most of the third they were sending letters to each other. That's how they communicated. They didn't have phones. So they're in the book, you're reading letters that the sisters were sending to each other. And you're like, God, I'm thinking, oh my God, 200 years ago, I wonder how long it took for them.
Now you can get a letter in 2
that their
days, but
sister
back
wrote to them.
then, that is crazy.
So again, going back to your point, and again, I prepared my athletes. If you have a question and I don't think I'll have internet, I don't think I'll be able to respond. That was part of my relaxation part. I was okay with that. But then again, if someone has a question and it's 48 hours later, it's okay. They're still going to get their question answered.
Right.
I don't anymore. I used to come home from coaching around 7:30, check my email, check my training peaks for athletes. And I'm like, there's nothing there that I can't do at 5 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Right.
I don't need the instant gratification. I don't need to respond to everything right when it happens. Sometimes I like to do that so I don't forget.
Right.
But at the same time, when it's something on Training Peaks or something in an email, that can wait till tomorrow. It's 8:00 at night. Most people are off work. Business hours are closed.
Right. And you know what? It's interesting you said that, because it just remembered, because when you're saying that, I was thinking, well, what if somebody's at the gym and they open it and it says this run and they don't understand it, or they have a question. What do you mean by this? What do you mean by that? Because I had somebody ask me a question today and they were at the gym and they're like, I just, what do you mean by descending miles? So, it just made me think of is I have somebody who, this was like a few weeks ago, had asked me a question about her workout. She was at the pool. She's like, I'm at the pool. I have a question about this. I was coaching or with a client or swimming. I was something. I wasn't even by my phone. When I came back, it had been like 2 hours. And I saw the message and I'm like, oh crap, she didn't know what to do. And then her next message was, oh, I figured it out. Mm-hmm. So we're kind of like, by answering all these questions so quickly, we're not allowing them time to maybe reread it, or maybe do some critical thinking, or maybe remember some past workouts, or maybe look up the drill on the internet because they didn't remember the drill, instead of sending me a message and then me sending them a video.
Or if you don't understand something, but you're ready to do your workout, let me know in your training log or in a text or a phone call what you did and the reason you did it, because you didn't understand something. and it still counts and it's still okay. And in
It's
the big
still a work. You
picture,
still got your training in.
yeah, in the big picture, one deviated workout is not going to make or break
Right.
your fitness development, your speed, your strength, anything like that. As long as you don't get hurt doing something that you weren't supposed to do. So
Right.
it's I'm coaching a new athlete, and it takes a couple weeks to kind of, I always tell them right away, it's going to take a couple weeks, maybe sooner, to get on the same page about training lingo, and try to look at your workout ahead of time so you can ask me questions the day before instead of in the moment. Try to be proactive in asking me questions a day or two earlier before I'm getting on the bike in 5 minutes. What do I do?
Right.
And it's just it's just educating our athletes, our expectations, and them educating us, their expectations, and so forth. And just really trying to take a deep breath and not be so instant gratification.
Right. Well, and I always tell my people, because everyone's schedule, even though I get their schedule each week, because I only do my plans per week, depending on their crazy life that week. On Sunday, I say, put in all your workouts for the week and let me know if you can't fit something in. So at that point, it would be good for me. It was a good reminder from you to say, look at the workouts and let me know if you have any questions about a specific workout as well. So Thank you. Thank you for that, Wendy. Before we go into some of the kind of tips that we have to, help your mental well-being by taking a little bit of a media cleanse. I just wanted to say, I looked into this a little bit, and there's actually a ton of research that says that social media and media in excess causes anxiety, overwhelm, and depression. It interrupts sleep and creativity. It creates information overload, which causes a lot of hard decision making in our life. And stepping back from the media and the social media a little bit or a lot of it, it depends on what you're comfortable with or just a little uncomfortable with. Staying away from it, there's proof that you will have more mental clarity, better sleep, better mood, and deeper connections, which is something Wendy mentioned from her little trip with her husband, is that they were going there for that connection, and without all the distractions, they really gained that deeper connection from it. So this isn't stuff we're making up.
Well, and on that note, again, on a podcast, I get a lot of information, wellness information from the Growth Equation podcast and Brad Stulberg. And he wrote an article titled Internet Brain. And I just want to read it. Internet brain results from spending too much time on the internet. It manifests as inability to focus for long periods of time, a strong desire to check something, be it social media, email, trending topics, or your favorite newspaper's landing page, even and perhaps especially when you don't actually want to. A constant feeling of adrenaline that is somewhere between excitement and anxiety, a lack of patience for anything that is inherently slow, and a significantly harder time being present in offline life, such as constantly needing to pick up your phone. That's the definition from his article of Internet Brain.
Yeah.
And I think it impacts more that teenage or maybe even retired, older folks who are retired, who just have more time on their hands.
Right.
But, I think it's okay. And I think there's a lot of positive things about the internet. A lot of people meet their spouses on the internet or just friendships. And for me, living in Georgia, I do rely on Facebook to check in on friends in Colorado that I never get to see. Oh, I wonder how so-and-so's doing. I'm going to go to their Facebook page and see how they're doing, send them a message, whatever. So there are a lot of positive things, but you just got to be intentional about it.
Right.
And you just know that it could be a distractor, and maybe set a time, going to some best practices, set a time where you're like, okay, 6 to 7 a.m., 6 to 7 p.m., that's my social media time. And that's it.
Right. Yeah. And so before we give some tips, I also wanted to say, and I kind of mentioned at this beginning, is like doing one of these things a little bit is going to help. So we'll give you some ideas that have worked for us, and that, you know, I looked up a couple other ideas to give you guys, but we're not saying like do these 10 things tomorrow, and if you don't, you're a failure. This is one of those things that kind of like all our wellness, like nutrition, like exercise, little tiny steps over time are going to help in a big way. So I would say just pick like maybe one or two that don't feel too hard for you, and just work on one or two until it becomes a habit, until it feels comfortable, and then expand your comfort zone a little bit more each time. But I do think that this is an important enough topic, such as exercise and nutrition, that this taking some time away from, and we always say social media because social media is so big right now, but the media in general, which is, you know, TV, radio, like things that I don't really count podcasts as something you need to take time away from. If you, like Wendy said, if you find someone who you trust, and you leave the podcast feeling uplifted and hopeful and positive. I'm talking more about things where you leave feeling overwhelmed, anxious, depressed. You
FOMO.
wasted your time. FOMO. Like if you feel any of these negative feelings after watching something or looking through something, those are the things we want to back out of. This isn't watching a movie with your family at night.
Right. So we were talking about screen time, and basically it's kind of screen time, because when you're on a podcast, you know, you're not on a screen. It's usually in your earbuds or something like that. But like TV is screen time. The news on TV is screen time. Just people have their phones and they're always on their phones. That's screen time, screen time, screen time. And again, I actually get every week, I get a report of my screen time, but then my screen time more or less is I work from my phone.
Right.
It's not my screen time on, you know, the internet. It's
right.
I work on Training Peaks. I work from my phone mostly. And because I get the screen time amount higher or lower, now I'm kind of like, well, you know, when I'm at home, why am I working from my phone? I can just work from my laptop.
Right.
And let's see how my screen time goes down.
Right. So I'm going to share 3 things that I do personally, because I don't do anything extreme, because again, I like my screen time. But the 3 things I do that have helped me just be aware, like Wendy said, like just it's the problem with especially social media is it's designed to keep you in it. So there are very specific algorithms. They figure out, like, do you like people wearing pink? Do you like listening to women? Do you like watching for 22 seconds before you move on? And then they will target you. And then you're all of a sudden, like, you're seeing your perfect, every video you like or every post you like is like, oh my gosh, I needed to see this because this is exactly what I like to see. So you're not choosing what you think you're choosing what you want to look at, but somebody else is deciding that for you. So that's why I think it's important to be aware. And the ways that I've been aware, that the things that have helped me is, number 1, I've turned off all notifications on my phone. All notifications. Text, Facebook, Instagram, email, no notifications on my phone. So I can't look, if I open my phone, there's no little thing saying, I need your attention. There's no notifications. There's no little dot next to something. There's not a 28 next to my text. I did that for when I was 2 years ago, I was diagnosed with ADHD, big shocker. And I was like, I want to see what I can do to help. And that was the first thing I did. I turned off all notifications. It made a world of difference, because then I don't have something pulling me in. My phone's always on do not disturb because I teach fitness classes and I will forget to turn off my put it on do not disturb. And if we're like in the middle of something pumping up loud music, and if I don't have it on do not disturb, if somebody calls or texts, it'll make a sound and like my music will stop. So I always have it on do not disturb. But notifications are something different, because if you can still have notifications, they just don't have any sound and they don't disrupt what is currently going on. So I have notifications all turned off. That has helped me tremendously not feel the FOMO or like, oh gosh, somebody needs me or somebody's looking at blah, blah, blah. So that's my number one tip for even like not letting screen time stress you out, is turn off all notifications. My second one that has helped me a lot is setting a timer. So if I want to mindlessly play solitaire, okay, I said it. If I want to play, I play 2 games on my phone. If I want to play a game on my phone, I will get sucked in and all of a sudden 4 hours goes by and it's 1 a.m. and I just missed 4 hours of sleep. So I will set a timer, like kind of like what Wendy said. If you know from 6 to 7, you're going to check your email, or from 6 to 7, you're going to check social media. So if whatever time it is, I'll be like, okay, I have 15 minutes. I'm going to set my timer and play this game as much as I want for 15 minutes. The minute my timer goes off, I stop. Here's why a timer helps me and can help people is for you to say, oh, I'm going to play for 15 minutes and you're looking at a clock or whatever. It's different because a timer makes a noise and it disrupts what you're doing. And so it changes the state you're in. And that's sometimes all you need, because when you're addicted to something, you're doing something mindlessly. So that's why they say mindlessly scrolling or mindlessly scrolling TikTok, because you could do that forever. But if something comes in, a noise, a signal, a flash, somebody coming in and saying, shut off your phone, those are changing what your mind is doing. So it's a lot easier to stop than just saying like, I'm going to play 3 more games. I'm going to play 6 more games. I'm going to play until I win 10 times. I'm going to play until I lose. I'm going to play until I've done all those things and I just keep playing. But if I have a timer make a noise, it stops where I'm at. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to finish the game and then I'm out. So setting a timer for a time that feels like that you're, I was almost said that you're allowed to do whatever you want if you're a grown up, pretty much. But something that makes you feel like you didn't just waste your life away, or whatever you decide works for you. So setting the timer. And then the third one, I didn't write it down. I just remembered I had, I forgot. It'll come back. You tell me your 3 tips, Wendy.
Well, during my trip, I had my phone set. I turned off all notifications. So I'm usually okay with the do not disturb feature. And then sometimes I'm like, how come my watch hasn't buzzed all day? Oh, it's still on do not disturb. But a lot of times I will have my notifications on because I am living in Georgia. I am helping my mom out. So I do worry about my mom and I want her to get a hold of me if she needs to. But I told my mom I was going away for 3 days and I probably wouldn't be able to get in touch, so if she needed something, call my other sister, deal with it. And so no notifications. Oh my God, what a life changer.
Right?
Your phone's not buzz, 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 buzz. Because now we have these smart watches that are connected to her phone, and I'm not getting so-and-so just updated their Training Peaks account. A game changer for me. It was wonderful. And then, so that was very helpful. So something I already mentioned that I like to do is set time periods scheduled into your day. So you like to ride your bike and do stuff on your phone, whatever you like to do. It's productive for you. I like to go aqua jog, maybe 20 minutes before I coach the kids. And that's actually where I'm checking athletes' training log on my phone. It's great because I'm going to be checking their training logs at some time today. Sometimes I wait until 4 o'clock and then I get it all done while I'm doing some aqua jogging. I have listened again to various podcasts about not checking your phone first thing in the morning. And I did that for 3 days. I didn't check my phone. So this morning, my husband and I get up at 5. I didn't check my phone. And I went to the gym around 6, grabbed my phone, and then I checked it at the gym because I do this hydro massage for 10 minutes. So I'm just laying there and I'm like, oh, I'm going to check my phone now because I'm just laying here, not doing anything. I'm not being distracted. I'm not taking attention away from anyone that's around me. It's a great time to kind of check in on Training Peaks, see what my athletes who work out late at night, see what they did yesterday. And so that's definitely helpful, not checking your phone right away and not checking your phone right before you go to bed.
Yeah.
I stopped doing that when I started reading at 8:00 at night. If I'm not reading sooner than that, it's usually, it's 8:00, time to read my book. I put my phone on the charger. It's downstairs. I read downstairs, and then I don't check it before I go to bed, and I just go to bed because I'm like, anything that's coming in, any question that's coming in after 8 p.m. can wait until the morning.
Right.
So definitely schedule your time. I haven't until this past week taken a media detox day. I've been in a challenge before in the past where it's a board, and on the board is saying 12 hours without social media, and I'm like, wow, how could you do that? Basically, I just did that, and so maybe I think I could do that once a week, is say, whatever day I choose it to be, I'm going to take an 8 hour or 6 hours or 4 hours or whatever I decide to do, detox from social media. Number 3, and again, I sometimes I get FOMO, and FOMO is not necessarily bad, but sometimes I get the FOMO. Ooh, I look on an internet and someone just posted their race results on Facebook. Ooh, I want to do that race. Ooh, I want to do that race. And I still kind of get caught up in that, but I know what it is. It's FOMO. I'm like, okay, congratulate them. They did a great job. Doesn't mean you have to do it.
Right.
That's their personal achievement. Doesn't mean you have to go try to be better than they are. Celebrate their win or whatever their accomplishment, and you do your own accomplishment, and that is not in line with what they did. And so, or if there's someone who you keep opening up again, going back to the social media, and it's a negative comment, it's a negative person, they're bringing negativity in your life, unfollow them, unfriend them, do what you need to do so you don't see that kind of stuff anymore. Again, we all have certain choices. This is all our choice, whether to be on social media or not. No one's forcing us to have an Instagram account, Facebook account, Twitter, X account, TikTok account. It's our choice. And so if there's a negative feed that you're constantly seeing, unfollow it, unfriend it, whatever you need to do is going to be very helpful. You already mentioned about setting the app limits, or time limits on certain things. One last thing I want to say is create no tech zones. So again, when I'm in the presence of my husband, my phone's pretty much not on my body. He has my full attention. So what I used to do while we would go on road trips, he's driving, I'm in the passenger side on my phone, on my, scrolling, answering questions, Training Peaks, whatever I'm doing. Not anymore. When I'm in the car with him, that's our time together. I don't need to be on my phone. It's 2 hours of the day,
Right.
Again, that trying to get away from the instant satisfaction of replying to someone right away. It doesn't need to happen. And, probably they don't even expect it to happen. They're just asking you a question. They're not they probably have no idea that you're going to answer right away. And even if you answer right away, they might not get it for a couple more hours anyways.
Right.
So it's all our own perceptions that we have to change our mindset for some things.
Yeah, that makes, total. Two things I thought of. Well, one, I remembered my third thing. It's a really simple one, and it's just for me. I'm sure some people would be like, there's no way I'm ever going to do that. But I don't have a TV. We don't have
TV either.
Yeah. So I know a lot of people, they leave their TV on all the time because they like the noise, but that's not necessarily, I know several people who leave it on news all the time.
My mother.
And it's just inundating you with, depending on your news channel, it's going to be different news. Like if you guys have watched different news channels, I used to work for this company, and I would like babysit this lady with dementia for 8 hours every Friday. And this was 2 years ago, or it might be 3 years ago now. Anyway, it was in 2021 in like January, February. So there was a lot going on with the COVID vaccine, the Floyd case, there was a lot politically going on, and she loved watching the news, but she didn't care what channel it was. So some days I would go and it was on like CNN the whole 8 hours. Someday I would go, it was on Fox News the whole hours. And it was so interesting to me because I'll be honest, I don't ever watch the news. I don't know what's going on. If something major happens, I find out about it somehow. So I was like, oh my gosh, they're talking about the same event in two completely different ways. And it made me realize how if you're brought up watching a certain type of news, it's easy to believe that, because I would believe it listening to it. It's very convincing. And then when you watch the other type of news that's different but the same event, I believe them. Mm-hmm. So it's like super confusing, but I understand how people would, if they're watching that one channel all the time, how they would believe a certain way and someone else would believe something totally different in the same event. So,
right.
So like, don't watch it all day. Like, I mean, I can't tell you what to do. I'm just saying for me, like those days that I was with her, I was so like anxious and stressed out and all this information. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this reminds me why I don't watch the news. News is a for-profit business. So they're not like, oh, no news channel is like, oh, we're reporting 100% facts, non-biased.
Right.
So keep that in mind when you're watching the news. But we don't have TV anyway. So if we want to watch a movie, we get out my laptop, we blah, blah, blah. Whereas if you have TV and a remote, it's so easy to just turn it on and leave it, or just sit there and like channel surf. And that's a form of channel surfing, is old school scrolling.
Right. We don't have a TV either, but a lot of it is my husband. He knows he has that kind of addiction to mindlessly watch shows or anything like that. And I'm not. So I'm like, well, it's easy for me. Let's not get a TV. Yeah. You know, it's a no-brainer. It's fine for me. I don't need to be watching TV. But something else you just reminded me of old school, when we were away for 3 days. So we have Alexa, and it's so easy. Alexa, what time is it? Alexa, what's the weather?
Right.
And so when we didn't have that, I'm like, all right, Don, what time is it? Don, what's the weather? And it was an interesting to realize how much we rely on Alexa. Alexa, turn off the hall light. Alexa, again, usually it's more or less, what time is it? What's the weather? What's the forecast? Right. Pretty much what we use it for. And now he has it set up to the lighting system. But yeah, I mean, again, the whole old school thing, I think, you know, I'm 50 years old. I look back, 40 years ago when I was 10 years old. What is life going to be like in 40 more years? You know, what's Cora's generation? What are they going to be talking about?
They're just going to think like, I wonder what time it is, and something is going to come into their brain. All they have to do is think it, and something's going to come into their brain saying 10:52.
Yeah, I believe it.
I do too. The other thing I was thinking, that when you were talking before about working out and checking your messages while you're working out. I have my people do this a lot, who are trying to quit something that's a guilty pleasure, or do less of it, whether it's, I don't know, eating something or drinking something or whatever. Use it sparingly as a reward. So like, if you love like just mindlessly watching TikTok videos or on whatever, use it as a reward. So, okay, if I get all my laundry folded, I'm going to do 10 minutes of TikTok. Or if I get my butt on the bike and get exercise, go to the gym, the whole time I'm on the bike, the whole 20 minutes I'm doing my cardio, I get to scroll TikTok. Or, use it like that. So you're, using it as a reward, which is sparingly, rather than a staple, which is the majority of your time.
Yeah. I like it.
So, well, I think we have like a lot of options out there. So again, maybe pick one that feels manageable or doable. If you guys have some things you do, let us know. Just comment or let us know. We're always learning. And that's one of the reasons why we're doing this podcast, is to get your guys' feedback and learning what you guys do as well, because we do what we do, but there's a lot of other great ideas out there. So let us know what some of the things that work for you as well, because Wendy and I work with a lot of people who want our help in all areas of life. And the more information we have about what works, the better we can be coaching our people.
Right. I think the reason we started this podcast was to just explore different ideas and help people navigate their own wellness through our experiences and our education.
Right. Do you have a listener question?
No, I don't have a listener question, but I have a listener comment.
Oh.
So my friend Laura from Instagram, she sent me a direct message, and she said she listened to episodes 2 and 3 of the podcast. She said she enjoyed it, and she thought we gave some very good tips and insight and information that is easily applied in the moment. For example, what you said about knowing your values and being in alignment with them, etc. So that's my first feedback about the podcast.
I love that.
I'm glad we got to share it. So if people have feedback, they can comment on the podcast. They can email us. They can send us a DM on social media. And when we're on social media, we'll see it.
I know. We'll get to it when we get to it. We'll get to it when we're on the bike, on the step.
Right. And so as far as I don't have a listener question, but I wasn't even prepared to do it just because I was away for 3 days.
But I love the feedback. You guys give us feedback, because that's going to help us serve you better. And also on like a selfish point, my mission in my life is to be who I am and have that positively affect another human. Mm-hmm. So not like me trying to make a difference. My goal in my whole entire life is to be authentically me and have that be enough so that somebody else's life is better because of it. So this kind of feedback is like, that makes me feel like I'm doing my job. My mission, not my job, but my job as a human.
Yeah.
So my listener question I got, it could be a really long answer, and it's actually something we could do an entire podcast on. So I'm just going to briefly touch on it, and Wendy, you can too. But she is curious about how heart rate training, power training, rate of perceived exertion, and all these things help contribute to your training, and how to intertwine them, and what's the best way to use all this data and information that we get during our training. And she was mostly curious because I don't train with I don't have a watch, I don't have a bike computer, I don't have anything like that. So she was also curious about, for me, like how I train without all that. So we could do 5 podcasts on this. This is a really, especially as athletes, data is huge. However, it's kind of like social media. It's like, it's amazing, or it could not be amazing. And so it could be detrimental if you're using it incorrectly. So for my short answer for today, because she did ask quite a bit about RPE, which is rate of perceived exertion. I think if you can start learning to equate all these other numbers, like your heart rate zones and your power zones and stuff like that, to your rate of perceived effort, rate of perceived exertion, and listen to your body and figure out, how does my body feel in zone 4 power zone on the bike? How does my body feel with my heart rate zone 2? And learn to equate how you feel and your rate of perceived exertion with those zones. That's going to benefit you, because if something happens and you're training or racing and your technology fails, you're not devastated. You're not like, I can't continue this race. my power meter died halfway through the race. You say, nope, here's my plan. Here's what, if I'm supposed to stay in zone 3, here's what my zone 3 feels like. It's a rate of perceived effort for me for a 5 or 6 out of 10. I'm just going to stay the course with how I feel. And that's my short answer of like how you can tie some things together and how to start listening to your body to understand your rate of perceived exertion.
My answer, I love talking about RPE because athletes who I coach, RPE is a non-negotiable.
Yeah.
They need to learn, if they don't already know it, rate of perceived effort. And the way I learned was back in 1992 or 93, whenever I got my first heart rate monitor, I lived in it. I didn't know anything about it. I just liked to see my heart rate going
Right.
all over the place, depending on if I was standing up, on the bike, run, whatever. But that helped me learn a little bit more knowledge about rate of perceived effort. I'm old school. Actually, I probably got my heart rate monitor a few years after I started triathlon, which I started in 1992. And so it's definitely a non-negotiable. You have to always tell me in your Training Peaks log what your RPE was. That's a feeling. Athletes who tell me I don't understand that need to figure it out, and I will help them because it's a personal feeling. One way I like to use it is and again, with the technology, athletes who are usually type A or maybe engineers, if they're supposed to do 5 minutes at 200 watts and they can't, they get very frustrated with themselves. And I'm like, well, what was your effort? 200 watts should have been at RPE of 5. It should have been in your endurance zone. But if you're struggling, maybe you didn't fuel, maybe you didn't hydrate, maybe you're getting sick. There's a lot of reasons that impact training and can impact your ability to stay on a focused heart rate, power, or pace. But if your effort, but it's all about effort. If you're falling short of a certain pace, but your effort is on track, that's what matters the most.
Stay with the effort.
So I like to use effort and monitor their heart rate, monitor their pace, monitor their power at various efforts. I think it's just important. And that's all I'll say about that. Oh, just one other thing, about heart rate. Like if right now you can run 3 miles at 150 beats in 30 minutes, as you gain more fitness, you'll be able to run 3 miles in 30 minutes at 130 beats, lower heart rate, or you'll be able to run 3 miles at 150 beats at 9-minute miles.
Faster pace, yeah.
And that's a faster pace. So that's usually something I explain to athletes as well, is that's just a sign of fitness. So again, as your coach, the reason you hire a coach is so we can help you with all that data for you.
Right. Yeah, I teach a power cycling class, and it's based on an FTP test that they took at some point. So that might have been like they did one last week, or that might have been a year ago. And then when they cycle, they have colors that come up on a screen. So if you're in power zone 1, your color is blue, power zone 2, your color is green. So as we're going through the workout, I'm like, okay, we're going to hold 4 minutes in power zone 3, which is yellow. And that's how we're supposed to teach. But I always throw rate of perceived effort in there. And I'm like, yellow, power zone 3, 5 or 6 out of 10 is your effort. If you feel like you're 5 or 6 out of 10, but your numbers and colors are not in line with that, go by your rate of perceived effort, because you could have had bad sleep last night. You could have a lot of stress in your life. You could have done a hard workout yesterday. You could have rested yesterday. There's so many factors that play into why you're not hitting your numbers. So stick with how you feel, your rate of perceived effort. And if you're feeling like it's a moderate effort, then you're in zone 3 for today.
Right. And if you're zone 4, that used to be zone 4, RPE 8, 2 months later, you're in zone 4, but your RPE is 5, it's time to update your zones.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. So again, we could talk about this forever. But we'll quit. What are you most excited about for the week, Wendy?
It's going to be a relaxing week for me because I'm doing a race on the 15th. And so I'm kind of starting my taper.
Oh,
which
nice.
again, my trip fell at a perfect time of relaxation because I started my taper. So I'm going to continue to follow my taper plan and peak for my 50K event.
And if you guys listened to our podcast from last week about periodization, you know that Wendy was so smart in planning her vacation in line with her taper. Great job, Wendy.
Couldn't have planned it if I tried. It just kind of worked out that way.
Just kind of life works out that way. I'm really excited about my weekend. I said this 2 weeks ago, which you guys are probably like, gee, she's the worst mom ever. But every 2 weeks, my daughter's with her dad. And on those weekends that she's with her dad, I just get to like do a lot of training, clean the house, sleep better because she sleeps in my bed with me and 2 dogs. It's just like, I really look forward to my weekend alone, so that I can rejuvenate and get ready for having her back. So I'm looking forward to my kid-free weekend.
That's great.
Yay. All right, you guys, if you have any questions about anything we talked about, or if you have some ideas of other things you want us to talk about, also, we want to hear your wellness win. We keep forgetting to say that because we don't really have a good, let's get off the podcast thing yet. But I want to remind you guys, we want to hear about your wellness wins. So comment with your wellness wins, because your wellness win is going to inspire somebody else. I promise. I guarantee. Right?
Right.
All right. Make it a great day.
1, 2, 3.
Make it a great day. All right. Bye, you guys.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Wellness Made Easy with Wendy and Kirsten.
If you want to learn more about us or anything we talked about today, check out the links in our show notes.
We would love to know what you think of our podcast and what you want more of. So drop us a comment, send us a message, and help us out by leaving us a rating and a review.
And don't forget to let us know your wellness win for this week.
Thanks for listening.
Make it a great day.